And get started. So we'll be recording this session. So anybody who is interested in also learning about what I'm covering today can also see and learn everything that I will be showing you both about Qualtrics. Are you both able to see my screen? It says Introduction to Qualtrics on the PowerPoint slide. Awesome. All right. So, okay, welcome to this afternoon's training. You are sitting in on an introduction to Qualtrics. My name is Christine Brent. I will be your trainer for today. Mackenzie or Eric, if you have any questions while I'm going through the training, please let me know as I am speaking. I will be going over what I believe are the most used features in Qualtrics. So I'm not going to go over every single feature that's available to you. So I'm not going to, if you find that I am skipping something you're interested in knowing more about, or if there is a particular feature that you're interested in seeing if Qualtrics can do for you that I'm not covering, definitely speak up and let me know, and I'll be more than happy to cover that. But this training goes a little bit over an hour. I usually try to keep it to an hour and 10 to 15 minutes. But if you need, and we're going to just go through the entire thing, but if at any point you need to take a break, if you need to use the restroom, or if somebody pops by your office or desk and you need to help them out, definitely you let me know and we can pause and then continue once you are ready to resume the training. So for today, these are our objectives for today. We'll learn about the different components of Qualtrics. And in addition to that, we'll learn how to use Qualtrics. So I will be covering over how to create a survey, how to analyze those results that come in after people start taking your survey, and how to create reports based on those survey results. And to complete those objectives, this is our very simple agenda. We'll look at the different components of Qualtrics. I will go over how to create a survey, how to send a survey, and how to view survey results using the data and analysis and reports tabs that are available to you in Qualtrics. But before we dive in to go through everything Qualtrics has to offer for us, I just wanted to go over a little bit of background information about what Qualtrics is. So initially, we have purchased Qualtrics to be used here at ISU as an online survey tool, but as we have more and more people using Qualtrics, people have been using it for different other purposes. So a lot of people use it as a form tool, like FormStack, if you're familiar with that application. I've had one person that I helped in the Spanish department. She wanted to create a quiz that gauged people's abilities on how fluent they were in the Spanish language. And based on how they did that in that quiz, she was going to place those students in more advanced Spanish language classes. And in that quiz, she was able to ask not only basic questions in Spanish, but then if they were able to answer the more challenging questions, she was able to present them with more difficult Spanish questions. And so that way she could kind of gauge how fluent the Spanish-speaking student was. So lots of different ways you can use Qualtrics, and as you use it, I'm sure you'll have your own purposes for using Qualtrics as well. And as you can imagine, with a survey tool like Qualtrics, you can ask many different types of questions. I'll just be going over a couple of different ones that I feel like people mostly use. But as you go into Qualtrics yourself and start using it, you may find that you may come across a question that I don't cover that you may want to know more about. And you can definitely reach out to me if you want to learn more about how that particular question type works. Qualtrics is available to everyone here on campus as long as you have your ULIT and password, because it can be accessed through central login. So that's really nice. You don't have to come up with a different username and password and have to remember that each time you log into Qualtrics. Just your regular ULIT and password you use for every other thing on campus here can be used for Qualtrics as well. However, even though you do access Qualtrics in the backend through central login, Anyone can take the survey as long as they have the URL. So you do not have to be part of the ISU community in order to take a Qualtrics survey. You could give it to anybody outside of campus, and they can answer your survey questions as well. So now we're going to stop and go into Qualtrics. We're just going to take a look. At this point, you can either sit back and watch me demonstrate all of the features that I will be sharing with you on my screen. However, if you are wanting to go into Qualtrics yourself and follow along by trying out all the features as I'm demonstrating it for you, you can definitely do so as well. It is completely up to you and your best learning style in terms of what you would like to do next. But I'm going to go ahead and open up Qualtrics. So you just have to open a web browser, and Qualtrics is one of the few sites on campus that doesn't end in .edu. I forgot to mention that to it before I closed down the slide, but it is illinoisstate.qualtrics.com. So just make sure you end it in .com, because if you do .edu, you will not be entering our Qualtrics site. And additionally, I believe you can also access Qualtrics through Mine. So if you log into Mine, I think there is a Qualtrics link that will take you to your Qualtrics homepage as well. Before I continue, I will say that I will be throwing a lot of information out at you, and I don't expect you to remember everything. However, I will be sending you a follow-up email that will go over some of the more main points I will be covering in today's training, along with knowledge articles that will go over some of the features that I will be covering today. So when you first log into Qualtrics, this is the homepage you are presented with. There's a lot of information here that you may find useful or not, but the main part of the homepage on this right side of the screen shows you the survey results, the responses you have received in the surveys that you have created or are a collaborator on. So it just kind of gives you a nice overview, a summary of how your surveys are faring. On the left side of the screen, the last 6 surveys you have opened will be listed here for quick access, but I will also show you how to access all of the Qualtrics projects in a different page as well. So this is kind of like a recent document sort of area. But before we go on into creating an actual Qualtrics project, if you click on the main menu on the upper left of the screen, which is represented by these 3 horizontal lines, a drop-down menu appears with some other pages that you can access in Qualtrics. I'll just be going over the more popular ones today. So the first one I will show you is the library. Once we click on that, our library page will open. And as the name implies, this is where you could store a lot of different documents, files that you may find yourself using in your surveys. So currently on our first tab that we're on, it is a survey library. And this is where you can store a question, a group of questions, which is also known as a block in Qualtrics, and an entire survey that contain questions that you may find yourself using on a fairly regular basis. So for example, let's say I'm an English professor in the English department, and I send out a survey at the beginning of every single semester that contains 3 questions I ask in every single one. So in order to save myself some typing energy, because I find myself typing these 3 questions over and over again, and I'm just getting tired of repeating myself, you can store those 3 questions here in the survey library. So this English major block, if I click on that, we'll show those 3 questions that I ask at the beginning of every semester in all of my surveys. So I will show you how to save these blocks of questions and how to input a block of questions later on. But this is a great way, just so you know, you can save yourself some time, and that way you don't find yourself repeating the same questions and typing them on a regular basis. And then finally, we have an entire survey. Here's an example of one. So let's say I send out this same exact survey at the beginning of every school year. And so instead of making myself type it every time, I can simply plug it into my new project, and all those questions will appear. You are able to copy an existing project by just finding it in your library, in your projects area, and then clicking copy. And that is perfectly fine as well. The nice thing about storing it in your survey library, as opposed to doing it that way, however, is later on, as you find yourself using Qualtrics more and more, you may find yourself accumulating many surveys. And so it may be hard to like scroll through and find all of the surveys that you have worked on to find the exact one you want to copy. So in order to save yourself some time, you can instead store it in your survey library instead. And that way you can, essentially copy paste these questions into your new project. And then that way you can send it off and you can save yourself some time without scrolling through a whole list of your projects. Next is the graphics library. And as the name implies, this is where you can store graphics that you may find yourself using in your surveys. So you can put in a graphic at the top of your survey. You can include it as part of a survey question. So you can ask a question and say, please look at this image, ... And then you can have them answer your question based on how they felt about the image. So in order to do so, simply click Upload Graphic. And then you can either use your File Explorer to find and drop the your image file in. But for right now, I'm going to drag and drop. So I'm drag and drop it here. There we go. After I drag and drop it, I'm going to click Upload One Graphic. And then as you can see, now I have my ISU seal here, and then I can use it in any of my future Qualtrics projects. Next is the Files library, and this is where you can upload any files that you would like to include as part of your survey. So maybe you want people to download a file before they start a survey. You can also put this at the end, so you can have people downloading files after the survey is over. So maybe you want them to hold on to some extra information that they can look back on to remember that survey that you filled out. And just like the just like the graphics library, simply drag and drop it in. There we go. And then upload one file. And now I have a PDF here that I can use to put in any of my surveys so people can download them. And finally, the last one is the messages library. And this is where you can house any messages that you find yourself using in thank you emails, any messages you want to put in at the end of the survey. So we have a default message that appears once a person completes a survey, but if you want to put a more personalized one, you could store it here. Additionally, you could put in any messages that you want to appear in the middle of your survey. So any, any kind of congratulations, you finished, the first portion of the survey, now finish the next portion, anything of that nature, you can put it in here as well. So all you have to do is click new message and then follow the directions in the windows that pop up. So for example, if I created a thank you message that I find myself using in all of my thank you emails, then I can put that in here. If you go back to the main menu, directly above the library is the directories. And the directories area is where you can house email addresses for if you find yourself sending lots of different surveys to a select group of individuals. This place is also great if you want to distribute your survey to a group of people, but you wanted to make it look like it came from the Qualtrics site instead of sending it from your ILS2 email. So this way kind of gives you a little bit of anonymity, so you don't send your ILS2 email out into the world. So to do so, simply click create a list, give it a name. So today I'll just write test was and then You can either upload a file or manual input. I will say I have more success doing upload a file just from my experience. And if you decide to select that option, it'll take you to this screen. And I always tell people, click that download a sample template link, and then Qualtrics will give you a sample CSV file that you can fill out. So just delete all of the information here in the spreadsheet, put in the information for the people you want to include in your contact list, and then drag it into this rectangle after you save it onto your desktop or somewhere else in your computer. So once you are done with that, the next button will be, the file will be activated. So just click on that and follow the directions. But you can also do a manual input, and you just have to fill in the fields in this table, and then click the next button again, just like before, and follow directions as well. If you click on the three horizontal lines once more, now we will go over to the projects area. And the projects area is where you will see all of the surveys that you have created or are a collaborator on. So I'll be going over collaborations in a little bit, but basically if you're a collaborator on a survey, it means that someone has created a Qualtrics survey and they decide to add you on so that you can help edit or view results in their created surveys. When you log into Qualtrics and go to your projects page, everyone has this projects and programs folder, which is your main folder. You can house all of your surveys will end up in here. The only problem is, maybe not a problem, but as you start creating more and more surveys, as you can see, the list gets really, really long and might start getting a little bit hard to find the survey that you're looking for. So maybe you want to organize it a little bit better. Qualtrics gives you the opportunity to create subfolders underneath projects and programs. So, for example, going back to my example of being an English professor and sending out English department surveys every semester, and I want to put it all in one place. I made one called English Major Survey, and so now I can put in any surveys I send to English majors in this particular subfolder. And then the Qualtrics training folder is something I actually use a lot because that's where I keep all of my Qualtrics training projects, as the name implies. So this way it just keeps it out from the general projects and programs area, and I can access all of my training surveys in one area. So if this is something you're interested in doing in the future, down in the lower left side of the screen, we have this create new folder link, and all you have to do is click on that, name the folder something, probably more specific test folder, and then now you can see we have our test folder available to be used to house any other Qualtrics projects that I would like to put in there. So for today, I'm going to head to the Qualtrics training folder, and I'm just going to stay here so that I can store all my Qualtrics training projects. And what we're going to do next is we are going to create a survey. So to do so, on the upper right side of the screen, we'll see this Create Project button. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on it. And you'll see this new page display with lots of different links and buttons. You can ignore most of them. The only one you really need to be concerned about is the one that says survey, because we'll be creating our project from scratch. So once I click on that, a menu will slide out on the right side of the screen, and I'll click the Get Started button. After I click on that button, I am displayed with this page that asks for more information about my Qualtrics project, specifically my name and where I want to put it. So for today, I'm going to and right below there, Qualtrics will ask where I want to store my survey, so I can put it in the general projects and programs folder. For today, I'm going to put it in my Qualtrics training folder. And then right below that, it will ask me how I want to start my survey. So I can make a survey entirely from scratch, But if I click on this drop-down menu, we have a couple more options available to us. So directly below Create a Blank Survey Project is Import a QSF file. If you ever find yourself exporting a Qualtrics survey and housing it in your laptop or your computer, you can re-import it back into Qualtrics using this option. When a Qualtrics project is exported, it is exported as a QSF format. If you want to copy a survey from an existing survey, select the third option, and it'll display another drop-down menu in which you can use to find that survey you would like to copy. So I mentioned that briefly when I was talking about the survey library. So you can definitely scroll through and find that survey you would like to copy. However, as you can see, since I have so many surveys here, it might take a while to find the correct one that I want to copy. So Qualtrics allows you to use a survey from your library, as I mentioned earlier. So once you select that option, a couple different drop-down menus appear. So first select your name for the library, because you're picking the survey that you created and stored in your survey library. And then select the survey in the Select the Survey drop-down menu. So since I just have the one sample survey, I can just select that. But as you can see, two different ways you can copy existing surveys you have if that is something you're interested in doing. For today, I'm just going to create a blank survey project. And then once I am satisfied with that option, I will click the Create Project button. So once I select that button, you can see here that I'm taken to a blank worksheet. This is my survey builder. And the right side of the screen will show a preview of all the questions I have in my Qualtrics survey. And the left side of that area will show me some options on what we can do with the selected question. So by default, the first question that appears will be multiple choice, but right now, our survey doesn't have a title, so that's what I want to show you. At any point in your survey creation, you can click the preview button and it will show you what your survey looks like currently in a new tab. So as you can see here, here's my survey. And all it has is that default question and the ISU seal. So no title appears. And so I'm going to change this question type by going to this drop-down menu on the left side of the screen and then select text/graphic. So this changes it into a simple text box if I click on it. So I can write a name for my survey. So I'll do the survey for today. And then so now my title is there. However, I'm not really satisfied with this title. It's the same font style and size as my questions. So I want it to stand out a little bit more. I want it to look more like a title at the top of the screen. So I'm going to click on Student Survey once more, and then right above this text box, there is a Bridge Content Editor rectangle. So if I click on this, this will change into a new text box that gives me some more options on what I can do with my title. So I'm going to also include some directions in my survey. So I'm going to just write survey. And now I'm going to change my title. I will change it so that it is bigger, it is bold, and like make it full. And then if I click off of that, you can see here, I have my title, and then I have a brief directions on taking my survey here. As you can see, going back to this text box, there's a lot of different options on what you can do with your particular survey title. Besides making it, changing the font style, you can put in hyperlinks, you can put in lists, you can bullet those lists, movies, pretty much anything you would like to do in a pretty traditional text box. So I have a question in the chat asking where we can find the recording of this training. We are recording it right now, and I will be sending this on to anybody who reaches out to me, or if you reach out to Noelle and she lets me know that you're interested, then I can send it on to you. Otherwise, I'll work with her and Eric to see if there's a good place to house the entire recording for this training. All right, so now that we have our title, let's go ahead and add some questions to my survey. To do so, click the Add New Question button, and then I'm going to select the type of question I would like to ask. So next, I'm going to ask a multiple choice question. And then to change anything in our question text or choices, just like our survey title, you just click on it and then add in whatever text you would like. So for today, I'm going to do where do you live? And I'm going to write in Bloomington and normal and other. And just like our title, for each of these areas, we do have a rich content editor option. So we click on the question, there is the rich content editor. And then for each choice, if you click on this drop-down arrow, the rich content editor shows up here. So you could change any sort of, you can make your questions and answer choices change to be pretty much however you would like it to appear. Additionally, if let's say that you have this other option, but you want people to be able to indicate exactly where they live. So with the city, if you click on this drop-down area once more, you can see that there is an allow text entry option. And so once they select it, if somebody does select the other radio button, they're able to use this text box to type in, you know, Springfield, Chicago, Peoria, wherever other city that they live in. I am going to add another question, and this time I am going to ask for somebody's email address. And to do so, I will be using the text entry question option. And now I will ask, what is your email address? And as you can see on the left side of the screen, our options for our question type have changed a little bit. We have a couple different more ways we can make this question look more like the way we would like it to. So for example, for the text type, you can do single line. You can make the text box even bigger. Since it's just an email address, I'll leave the single line as is. Now, since this is a text box, people can put in whatever they want for this field. So, you know, they don't have to do an email address. They can accidentally put in their home address, their phone number. They can put in, you know, their name. So what you can do with these types of questions is that you can put in some validation so that if somebody does enter something other than their email address, Qualtrics will throw in an error message saying, hey, you know, this isn't right. You know, we asked for an email address and you accidentally put something else. It's a little bit more general than that, but you get the idea. So if this is something you're interested in doing with your email address question, simply click the slider bar next to add validation and then click content type in the drop-down menu that appears. And then the content type drop-down menu will appear and it has email address by default. But as you can see, when we click on this drop-down menu, that other validation types for content can show up that you can also select. Yes, if you put in a title and intro after you start entering all of your questions in your survey, you can definitely move it. And actually, this is a great time to show you how to move your questions within the survey. So let's say, you know, we have our what is your email address question, but we want it to appear at the top of the screen. We want it to appear before the title because we like being different. Simply click this 3 more dots in our question area and then click on move question. And in the box that appears, simply use the drop-down menu to indicate where you would like it to move. So let's say you want it to appear at the top. click confirm, and then as you can see, it just simply moves it to the top. And so let's say, I changed my mind. I want my title before the email address. Simply click the 3 more dots. I'll demonstrate again. Click move question, top of the block, and then it appears there. And then, as you can see that you can also indicate if you want it before or after a question. So let's say I want to indicate it is after the where do you live question. So where we had our email question beforehand, click confirm. And now it is back to the order that I want it to. So as you can see, with our survey questions and our titles, let's add a new question, actually one more. So if you click add a new question, I'm going to do multiple choice. And then I am going to ask, what is your major? Art, music, and we'll do math. Pretend he only has 3 different majors on campus. So with this question, I want to have respondents to have the ability to select more than one option because they might be an art and music double major or a music and math double major. So if you would like to change these radio buttons so that you can select more than one, select allow multiple choices. And as you can see, those radio buttons got changed to checkboxes. And so now people can select more than one option. And additionally, there are some other choices here and what we can do with our question that we didn't see with our email address question. So for example, we can add more choices by clicking the plus button, delete choices by clicking the minus button. There's this use suggested choices that if you click the slider bar, drop-down menu will appear with some multiple choice questions or responses that you may find yourself wanting to use, such as, going from strongly agree to strongly disagree. Well, I'm going to click that slider bar off. And then you can change the format of your multiple choice question so you can make it a select box instead of a list. In addition to the list, you can change the alignment. So currently we have it vertically shown. We could change to horizontal, and you can also change the label position so that our choices appear on the side. So lots of different options in terms of what you can do in terms of having your multiple choice answers appear. Here's a column, for example. I'll leave that as vertical. I'm going to click on my preview button, and so we can see what our survey looks like so far. So there's our title and our directions. And as you can see here, we can select more than one option for what is your major, but for where do you live, it only allows us to select one. When we are adding questions to our survey, we are all in the default question block. So everything appeared in this one single white rectangle. And the reason for these blocks is that you can use blocks to divide your questions into groups so that it's not just a long list of questions. Because as you remember, when we clicked on preview, all of our questions appeared on one page. And this isn't a big deal if we just have a very short survey. It's not very overwhelming. But if you're planning on creating a Qualtrics project that has 100 questions, it may become a little bit overwhelming if somebody opens up your URL and sees a whole long list of questions all appearing in one. So if you want to break it up a little bit, click the add block and it will give you this new rectangle. And you can also name this block to be more specific to the type of questions you ask. So this will be important once I start going over survey flow. So a survey flow is a way that you can have branching scenarios. So depending on how somebody answers the question, a group of questions will appear based on their response. So for example, I'll be going over later, if somebody selects that they are an English major, then I want to have questions for English majors to appear. But if they select a different major like art or music or math, then obviously those questions don't pertain to them. So I do not want those English major questions to appear for those particular respondents. If you remember at the top of this training hour, I've shown you how I had put in questions, blocks of questions to store in our survey library. And if you wanted to plug in those questions into a survey, then click the import from library check button and then scroll down to the bottom of this question library and find your name. Click on categorized, and then Qualtrics will show you all of the questions that appear in a block or a single question format. So I want to put in this entire block of questions. So I'm going to click that checkbox and insert 3 questions. And so now, if I scroll down a little bit, here is that block of questions I showed you at the beginning of the training with the 3 questions I asked my English majors, theoretical English major students. And that way I didn't have to type in those 3 questions over and over. And then you can always delete blocks by clicking on this 3 more dots and then clicking delete. Qualtrics will ask, are you sure? So you say yes, please delete it. And so now I am left with the original group of questions I showed you when I was demonstrating how to put in questions in the Qualtrics survey and my English major block questions directly below. So I'll show you. If we click on preview now, we have the original 4 questions, or 3 questions rather, with the title. And then this red arrow appears. If I click on this red arrow, this will show the English major questions that I had just plugged in. So that's pretty nice. You can use that red arrow to, this red arrow will appear each time you put in a new block of questions. And so people just click on that to advance to the next set of questions. I am going to go back to my library, or my projects area rather, and I am going to open up a survey that I create for demonstrating the rest of what I want to show you with Qualtrics. So I am going to open up this test student survey Qualtrics project. And so a lot of the questions should look similar because I use the same ones for demonstration purposes. But I'm going to click on one of these questions, and you may see at the bottom on the left side of the screen that there is a question behavior section. So depending on the type of question type you're using, you may see this section and some options on what you can do with that particular question. So I'll just go over some of the more popular ones, which is the first 4. So the first one is display logic. And as the name implies, what this does is that if you put it in a question as part of a question, that question will appear depending on how somebody answers a question previously. So let's say you ask somebody what year they are in school, and then you have one single question asking about the first year experience. So obviously that question doesn't apply if they're a sophomore, junior, or senior. So you can plug in that display logic option for the what is your question about your first year experience, so that it only displays for those who answer freshman. And along the same lines, we have skip logic, but it's kind of works the opposite way. So if you would like to have that question appear about the first year experience, but instead you would like to do skip if they answer sophomore, junior, senior, then you could do that as well. So it really just depends on what kind of question choices you have and how you would like your follow-up question to appear. The carry forward choices takes the response that a respondent selects for one question and then plugs it into the next question. So let's say I have, what year are you in school? And then following question says, looks like you answered. And then they will put, Qualtrics will put in the respondent's answer after, looks like you answered. So looks like you answered freshman, looks like you answered sophomore, and so on and so forth. And finally, choice randomization is if you want to scramble the multiple choice options so that, people don't get the same choices in the same order. So now we have created our survey. Now we're going to build some more things on the back end so the survey works the way we would like it to. So what we're going to do first is we're going to head on over to the look and feel section, which is represented by the paint roller icon. So once we click on that, it'll bring up a page that shows you some options on what you could do with your how your survey looks. Most of the options in this particular menu item are plugged in by default and we can't change them. But one thing I did want to show everybody is if you click on general, a lot of people are interested in putting a progress bar at the bottom of their survey. So currently it's completely blank. And so if you want to put a progress bar, Qualtrics nicely puts in a preview of your survey to see what it would look like with a progress bar. So once we scroll down to the bottom, you can use this drop-down menu to select with text. So 0 and 100% appears on either side of this gray bar, and it just slowly turns red the closer they get to finishing. Without text, so it's just a blank bar that turns red. And then finally with verbose text. So that way you'll have these words survey completion appearing above our progress bar. So this is just kind of a nice thing to put in your surveys. If you have a super long survey and you want your respondents to know how much longer they have to go before they finish, or maybe this will give them an idea like, oh shoot, I won't be able to finish the survey because it's a lot longer than I anticipated. It's completely up to you. But that is where the progress bar is located in case you're interested in utilizing it. So just make sure you click the apply button on the lower left side of the screen once you select the progress bar or you decide not to. Right above our look and feel is these two rectangles that say survey flow. And I had mentioned being able to show a block of questions based on how a respondent answers one question. So the display logic and skip logic that appeared below our question behavior section is great if you just want one question to appear or be skipped while they're taking a survey. However, if you have a block of questions that you would like to appear based on a particular response, survey flow is probably what you're going to want to do. So once you have your survey flow open, you'll see all these gray rectangles indicating all of the questions and question blocks you have so far. And what you're going to do first is delete all of the question blocks except for the ones that you want everybody to answer. So make sure all of the English major block questions don't appear here. And once you are satisfied with the gray rectangles that appear on this page, click the add below link. And then we're going to branch to our blocks. So we are going to first select branch. And once we do, click add a condition hyperlink and then select the question we would like to branch from. So I have a group of questions that appear based on their response if they are an English major. So I'm going to select what is your major? And then the choice is English and then is selected. But as you can see, a lot of different options in that drop-down menu. Click OK and then click add a new element here. And this time I will select block. And this is when naming your blocks a more specific title comes in handy, because when you click this drop-down menu, as you can see, you have all of the names of our blocks that I have named in my particular survey. So if you leave your block names as the default, like block 1, block 2, block 3, it gets a little bit difficult trying to figure out which block you want to branch to once you click on this drop-down menu. But since I named my block of English major questions as such, I just have to select on it. And so that's complete. Again, by putting the scenario in place in our survey flow, what happens is that people go through my 6 questions in my default question block. And then once they hit that question of what is your major, if somebody selects English, they will be presented with these straight questions in my English major question slot. If they select anything else like art, music, math, whatever other choice that I have available, these 3 questions for English majors will not show up for those particular individuals. So once you're done and satisfied with your survey flow, click the apply button, and then we are done with our particular survey flow. The next menu option I want to go over is survey options, which is like this little square with a line, with a couple lines and circles. So as the name implies, this allows us, the survey options area will allow us to put in some more background settings information for our surveys. So currently we are on the general page, and there's not much there's not much here that you can do, but one thing that I always show people is you can put in question numbers. So put apply that on, and then you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Otherwise, you'll just see the question text with the answer choices. Next is responses, and this will allow you to put in some settings in terms of how you would like of what you would like to do with people's responses. The one that I always show people that I feel like a lot of people are interested in is the back button. So I believe the back button is turned off by default when you start creating a new survey. So just click that slider bar on, and then when people are interested in going back and changing their answers, instead of just seeing that red arrow at the lower right of your survey, they will also see a red arrow on the lower left of their survey. So they can go back and change any answers they would like. If you're creating a super long survey and you want people to be able to leave and then come back later to finish, click the slider bar. And then what this does is that your respondent is presented with a personalized link, and then they can just plug in that link later on, and that will bring them back to the last question they answered, and then they can continue taking their survey from there. And then the other area that a lot of people use on this particular page is the survey availability. So right now I have my survey open to collect results until the end of time. But if you click the second radio button next to set specific start and expiration date, you can then click on this edit survey availability button. And then you can indicate the start and end date of your survey. So this is a great way if you don't want to start receiving survey results later on. If somebody stumbles across the URL and decides to fill it out, then this will prevent them from doing something like that. Next is security. And this is if you want to put some more secure measures to your survey. So you can, under survey access, you can have it available to anyone or invitation only. So if you would like to have anybody who has access to a URL to access the survey, leave that radio button as is. But later on, I'm going to show you how to create personalized links for every single person that you would like to take the survey. And so if you're wanting people to just fill out the survey if they have that personalized link, then click on this radio button. And so if anybody somehow finds the URL to your survey and they click on it, they'll be presented with an error message with some wording about how they do not have access to take the survey. You can also password protect your survey. So just click that slider bar and indicate what the survey password is. Then you can send it on to people who are interested in filling out your survey. And finally, the last one that a lot of people are interested in is prevent indexing. So if you do not want Google to pop up your survey as a search result, click that slider bar on, and then it won't show up in search results for Google or anyone else. The last menu item in this options area is post survey. And this is a great place if you want to put in some follow-up emails, either to the person who filled out your form or to somebody on campus who's interested in receiving your survey results. So we have a default thank you email address that you can send out to people, but if you remember at the beginning when I talked about the messages library, you can find that message and then you can select whatever thank you email you would like to send to people. You can also send an email out, a more specific email out by clicking edit triggers. And click add another trigger in the window that appears. And then as you can see here, we have some options on what we can do with our survey on who we want to send our email to. So let's say my supervisor, Reggie Redbird, wants to get an email each time the survey is filled out. So I'm going to put in Reggie Redbird's email address, and then you can write some information here if you would like Reggie to. Right underneath, we have a couple check boxes. So if you want Reggie to just receive the responses to the surveys, then click this checkbox. If you want Reggie to see the responses plus the question that correspond to those responses, click the next checkbox. And then let's say that Reggie Redbird is only interested in receiving those results if they had answered that they are an English major only. So art and math, he's not interested in getting those survey results. You can definitely filter those emails by first clicking add a condition and then select question, select what is your major, English is selected. So now if we save this particular trigger, then we're going to have Reggie Redbird receive the responses of those who only selected that they are an English major. I'm going to select edit triggers once more and click add another trigger because I want to add one more. This time I want to send this email to the person who actually filled out the survey, so the respondent. So in order to do so, click the pipe text icon, which looks like this A surrounded by two brackets. Then what you're going to do is find that question where you asked for their email address. So I'm going to click survey question, what is your email address, and what is your email address? So this crazy looking code will appear, and what we're going to do is to simply just cut and then copy the address there. And then I want to send their responses along with the questions corresponding to them. So I'll select both, and we can write something like, thank you for taking the survey. Here is how you answer. So this is when it's important to make sure that they enter the email address. So when I had talked about, putting in content validation, so Qualtrics will warn them if they don't enter an email address, put that in place so that Qualtrics will know who to send those emails to. Obviously, if they write a phone number, Qualtrics won't be able to send this particular email to that individual. So once you're satisfied with this, click Save Triggers. And now we have both those emails that will be sent out each time that survey is taken. I'm going to head back to my builder, and I had talked about collaborators where you can have somebody be part of your survey, whether you want them to physically edit the survey with you, or if you just want them to have access to view the survey results. To do so, click on this Tools drop-down menu and then click Collaborate. And then you search for the person's ULID or email address. So I'm going to look for my coworker. Select his name, click Add. Put a customized message if you want to warn them what he's about to receive. But I am going to just click OK for now. And then you can see this row appears in our table. And the nice thing about Qualtrics is that with this row, you can indicate how much power you want Chris to have for this particular example. So if I click edit, then, Chris will be able to go in and actually make updates to my survey questions and answers. You can have him be able to just view results if you just want him to view the results that come in by clicking that details checkbox. You want him to be able to activate and deactivate the survey, to copy or distribute the survey. You just select the checkboxes on what you would like your coworker to be able to do in your created survey. So once you click the Save button, Qualtrics will shoot Chris an email saying, hey, you're given access to the survey as a collaborator. Click on this link so that you can open up your Qualtrics account and access this particular survey. Right, today I'm going to click cancel because we are not going to have Chris be able to collaborate on my sample survey. Yes, I want to close it out today. All right, so that is all I want to show you with this particular builder. Once we are done with creating our builder, make sure to click the blue publish button on the upper left side, right side of the screen rather. When you are creating Qualtrics surveys or projects, nothing is live until you actually physically click this publish button. So if any of you are familiar with FormStack, you are aware that whenever you create forms in FormStack, everything is live right away. Everything that's published in your particular FormStack URL. Qualtrics, you have to click this publish button. So once I click publish, this new window appears, and this URL that appears under distribute will be the URL you can send people so they can fill out your survey. I'll show you where else you can find this particular URL once you close out this window. So don't worry, don't panic if you close out from this window without saving this. I just want to direct your attention to the right side of this window where it says expert review. Qualtrics looks through your survey and kind of reviews how you formatted everything, and they look to see if there are any questions or answers that they think screen readers might struggle with. So if you anticipate having a lot of people with screen readers trying to look through your survey and answer it, check out this area. If there is a number next to recommendations, click the view recommendations link, and they will show the question that they think you might want to review and perhaps change the format so screen readers will not struggle to answer, to read aloud that particular question and or responses. My survey strength is great and there are 0 recommendations. I'm satisfied with how it looks. I will click publish. So once we're done, as you can see, the publish button is now deactivated. I can't click on it. Once you start creating any sort of change to your survey, whether you put in another response to a multiple choice question, you change any of the question text, even if you change any of the survey flow areas, this publish button will reactivate once more. So you can create any sort of changes in the background while people are taking your survey, but just make sure once you're done and satisfied with any updates you make to your survey to click this button once more. So that way people will be able to take your survey again with the most up-to-date survey version that you have available. So just always make sure to check out this publish button so that you're aware that people are going to be able to take the more recent version of the survey that you have created. If you click on this workflow tab, this is a great place for you to put in some workflows which allow you to do things such as send out a follow-up email to a student after a low satisfaction score with a class or professor. So let's say you have a follow-up email specifically for those who are very dissatisfied with a professor. So you could create a workflow to send a specific email out to those people. You could send out a series of emails. So let's say you have a form built in Qualtrics where you want you have 2 advisors set it up in place, and so you want an email sent to the first advisor to review that form, and once they sign off on it saying they approve of the form submission, then a second email will get kicked off to the second advisor, and so the second advisor can then open up their Qualtrics submission, and then they can review it and then approve that form as well. So it's just kind of like a very advanced survey flow, but with emails sent out to people. So I'll just demonstrate one. I will do a scheduled email. So for this example, I'm going to pretend my supervisor, Reggie Redberg, wants a reminder email at the end of every week to go log into Qualtrics and check out how a survey is doing and to view all of the results that have come in thus far. So to do so, I'll click Create a Workflow. And a lot of buttons and links will appear, but we are going to do started at a specific time. If you do started by an event, that will allow you to start a workflow based on how a respondent responds to a survey or if the survey has been completed. So since I'm doing a scheduled workflow email, I'll do the second button. Click Get Started. Then now it's going to ask how often we want this email to be sent out. So I said Reggie wants it at the end of every week, so I'll do weekly. And then it will ask me to specify the day and time of the week. So he wants it at the end of the work week, so Friday, and then at 5 p.m. And then Central Time should be selected by default, but use the drop-down menu if it's not. And then you can say it starts and ends, starts immediately and never ends, but you can do a start and end time if that is something you prefer to do. And then once you click Save, then it has this rectangle appearing saying something is supposed to start at a specific time on weekly on Fridays. So I'm going to click this plus sign, click Add a Task, find the email, and then in the window that appears, we're going to indicate the type of email we want sent out. So we want Reggie Redford to receive this email. It will look like it came from Qualtrics for the subject, so such as weekly Qualtrics reminder. You can send it out immediately, and then you can load up a message from your messages library if you would like to do so. Otherwise, you know, it's a free-form text field, so you can just write in your email response. So here is your weekly reminder. And click Save. And so now, on weekly on Fridays at 5 p.m., this particular email will be sent out. In the upper right side of the screen, click that slider bar to turn the workflow on. Yes, I want to continue. And then if we close out of this window, we can see we have a new workflow in place. So once we have published the survey, it has been sent out. We are going to now send it out into the world. So let's say you forgot to copy that URL that we saw when we first clicked publish. Never fear, click the distributions tab, and this will bring up a window with some ways of how we can distribute our survey. So the most popular way is the anonymous link, and so that's where that URL appears. So just copy that. You can also email the link. So this is where those directories that I showed you at the beginning will come in handy. So if you want to have the URL link sent out directly from Qualtrics without using your ILS2 email, head on over here and click Compose Email. And then in the To field, find out that directory with the group of email addresses that you would like to send it out to. So go to Lists and then a library, and I create a fake one called Bird Contacts that has a lot of different fake email addresses of birds, and there are some names I chose that begin with the same letter as the bird type. So once I select entire contact list, Qualtrics lets me know that I'm sending out to 4 different people. And then as you could see here, you could Qualtrics, this looks like a sample Qualtrics, and you can just change that reply to email so that your personal ILS2 isn't showing up. And you can indicate when you want to send it out. Put in a subject, such as survey. And then in this text box area, this is what will be sent out by default that shows the links on how to access your survey. But you can also add other information. You can put in a hyperlink. You can change the font size. Everything else that you can do with a text box, you can do here as well. And then once you're done, just click Send Now. and then you'll be able to see all those people in your contacts will be given a email. Okay. Cancel. If you remember in the survey options area, I believe I had indicated that you can have the survey available to everybody, or you could send out personalized links. So if that is something you're interested in doing, click generate links. And then again, this is where those directories come in handy. Select the contacts you would like to send it to, click generate links. Click OK. And so what Qualtrics is doing is that Qualtrics will generate a CSV file with the names of the people in your contacts list and a personalized link for each one. So this way, you can kind of track to see if everybody has completed your survey. And so every single person on my list now has a different URL, a different unique link that they can click to access your particular survey. If you click social media, it gives you some options on different social media places you could send your survey out to. We do not have offline app available, but right below we have QR code. And so if you click on that, you can use this QR code that Qualtrics very helpfully generates for us. So we completed our survey, we published it, we sent it out into the world for people to fill out. Now results are coming in, so we need to be able to view those results. So in order to do so, click on the Data and Analysis tab, and then this will take us to a table that contains all of the responses we have received thus far. So I have some fake ones here that I filled in for demonstration purposes. As you could see at the top of this table, we have all of the questions, or some of the questions we have available in our survey. So as you can see, since this table is rather limited, we can't fit everything. It just gives some questions that we can use. So if you want to put in any questions into our table that we do not currently see, simply hover over any of the columns, click the plus button, and then select that question you would like to appear. So I want to see how people's email addresses, so you could see it here. And if you click on the three more dots at the end of the row, you can see we have some choices here and what we could do with our responses. If you click view response, you can see all of the responses sent to from this particular individual. I will say there are some instances where I was able to click on these buttons and change the answers. So I can't find a pattern in terms of when that happens or not, because as you can see, it's not working here. But I always just caution people once you're clicking around here so that you don't accidentally change anybody's responses. You can also delete the response if you don't want to save it. So this is great if you are testing out your survey and you want to, get rid of all of your test responses so it doesn't mess up your data. You can also retake any of these responses if they contact you and say, hey, I said I was an English major, I'm actually a math major. You can use retake response and change their response. And you can also export to PDF. So if you're interested in saving a PDF copy of any of the individual responses, you could do so in this manner. Here we go. Here is a PDF of all of our responses from this one person. You can also export your entire table by clicking this export and import button. Click export data. And then here are some common data formats people like to export their data as. CSV and Excel are the most popular. Click download. And then we'll wait for that to show up. But this will download all of our exported data into a CSV file. So I'll open that up in a little bit. You may want to add a filter so that you just see the responses for a particular response. So if you, for example, just want us to see art majors, click add filter. and then give it a descriptive name like feature, and then click all of the following are true. Like, what is your major? Is art. So if we click oh, and then click Save Filter if you want to use this again in the future. Click Apply Filter, and then as you can see, we only see our art major responses here. You can also click this out, and then let's say we want to create a filter for math majors. Do create a new filter, and then this time, math major, deselect art, select math, apply filter. Now we see math major show up. So just make sure to delete all the filters so that you can see all your responses once more. Once you are receiving all of your results here, you can look in the results tab to view a visual graphic that will show you all of the results for a particular question. So all of the questions are appearing on the left side, and then a graph appears on the right. If you click on any of the graphs, you can see that we can change any of the graph types we would like. So if we would like a bar graph instead, it'll show up here. And the nice thing about this tab is that if you scroll down a little bit below, the table down here shows you the response choices and the number of people who answered each one. And then I will show you with the pie chart. I thought this was funny, but you can make it look more of a donut. I believe this shows up as a pie chart by default. So if you want that donut to not appear, go to that slider bar next to inner radius and slide it all the way over to the left. So yeah, as you can see, if you scroll through, all of my questions and corresponding graphs appear here. And finally, the reports area. Oh, I do want to show you, let's say Reggie Redbird, my supervisor, wants a report of all of my results at a scheduled time. If you do share report and do schedule report email, then you can put in Reggie's name here in one of your directories. I'll just say that he is Bluebird, actually, not Reggie. And then put in your name as from, and then schedule when this will happen. Friday. Oh boy, military time. Yeah, 1500. The subject, the survey results, and then this will attach a PDF with all of our graphs once we save this. So yeah, this is how you can send a weekly email if Brad wants to have a PDF of all the graphs of the results we receive. And along the same lines, our final tab is a reports tab, and if we click on that, as you can see here, we are presented with a blank document, so we can put a title. So click insert text area and do double click student survey results, and then change we want the title to appear. And then if we click insert once more, select the question for the graphs we would like to show up. So let's do what year are you in school? And so our question appears at the top, our bar graph appears below. Let's say I want a pie chart. Then we'll change the pie chart, and then scrolling down, you can see you could change the label. So bar for freshman, you could change the color to orange. So you can have it look however you would like it to. And so once you're done with this, you can see on the upper left side of the screen some options on how you would like to export your report. So my export options are a little bit slow today. So, but I will, it will just appear as a downloadable PDF document. Then there we go. That you can then send off into the world. All right. So are there any questions before we wrap things up for today? Like I said, I know I threw a lot out at you, so I'll be sending everyone a follow-up email that goes over some of the more main points that I demonstrated today. And then you can also let me know if you're interested in a recording, and I can send it on to you. So to wrap things up, again, our Qualtrics website is illinoisstate.qualtrics.com, but you can also access it through Live. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties with Qualtrics, I will be sending directions on how to access Qualtrics for the first time, but if you're getting any error messages, definitely let us know if you are experiencing any technical difficulties like that, and we can help you out. So go to help.illinoisstate.edu to submit a ticket, and you can also send an email to us at supportcenter@ilsu.edu. If you prefer to talk to a live person, you can call us at 438-4357, which not only spells help, it spells get help. So it's very easy to remember. Other than that, thank you for coming. Like I said, you'll get my email from me, so you don't have to memorize the email address, but there it is if you're interested. And in the future, if you're interested in more trainings, these are the ones I do offer. So feel free to reach out and ask me if you are interested in any trainings in the future. Otherwise, thank you for coming. I have received some messages in chat requesting recordings, but if you can just reply to my email that I sent you, letting me know you're interested in a recording, let me know. Because I don't want to forget you, and email's the best way to remind me that you are interested. So otherwise, thank you for coming, and have a great rest of your day, and have a great holiday weekend. And I look forward to hearing more from you later. So bye-bye.